All right, so let's start here. This is absolutely a tragic story and the dramatic times in court. Bokgabo Poo's father pounced on his daughter's alleged killer while he was in the dock today. Ntokozo Zikhali appeared in the Benoni Magistrates Court following his arrest on Friday. He's been charged with the kidnap, rape and murder of the 4-year-old. But as proceedings were wrapping up, emotions got the better of Poo's father. He jumped from the gallery and lunged for the accused. The child's mother also doesn't have much hope for justice. Let's get the latest from ENCA's Masikane, who has spoken to the parents and who was in court. And Slee, it was quite a dramatic moment. You can see the accused sitting in that cream top in the front, and then just 2 rows behind, the father of this little girl. And he suddenly gets up and launches himself. Before we chat, let's take a look at those dramatic visuals.
It's very, very hectic. It was very, very difficult for me to take in. I couldn't hold myself. What happened, it happened. It was never planned that I'm going to make a move, but I'm going through a lot of emotions right now, and I've just seen the kill of my child, and you should understand how one feels about that.
So, Slee, a very dramatic day. Tell us a little bit more about being in court, seeing that moment, and then your interaction with the father afterwards.
Yeah, a very emotional day, and I think it's quite understandable. This is a family that has lost a 4-year-old little girl whose body was mutilated, dismembered. Her leg was found a few meters away from her mutilated body last week following a community search. And we know that Bokgabo was really the apple of her parents' eyes. They were really looking forward to watching her grow up, speaking to them. You could tell that she was a bubbly young girl who really had, according to her family, a very bright future. And what we saw in court today was the Wattville community then coming out in their numbers, demanding that he remains behind bars outside of court. And then inside of court, as you can see from the visuals right now, is that tensions were very high. You could cut it with a knife, really. A heavy police presence. It seems they were anticipating that anything could happen, and that is exactly what happened. I've never seen anything like it in court either. This was before the presiding magistrate. We were still in the middle of court proceedings when this took place, and all of a sudden we just saw Bokgabo's father leaping towards the accused after the charges were read, and while they were busy trying to arrange a postponement date. We had a moment then to speak to him afterwards in terms of what was going through his mind. Was he just reacting? Did he plan to do this? But he says really he was quite overcome with emotions. We know that Zikhali, as you said, is facing a rape, kidnapping, murder, as well as defeating the ends of justice and violating a corpse. Those are 5 charges before him. But what we also know, Sally, is that this is an accused who is actually also out on bail with regards to another matter, another rape charge against him. And it seems he was granted bail in those particular proceedings. But let's just take a listen to Bokgabo's father in terms of what happened in court.
All right. So we did play the clip of the dad who spoke to you outside court, and who basically, as you've explained, just said he couldn't help himself. I mean, I can't even begin to imagine how horrific to be sitting 2 rows away from the person accused of taking away your most precious daughter. I know you've also spoken to Bokgabo's mother. Do tell us about that. But I wonder if you could also just track back a little and tell us a bit more about how this little girl went missing and what is believed to have been the motive for this horrific and gruesome attack.
It seems as at this point, Sally, police are wanting to remain mum in terms of how far they are with the investigations, in terms of motive. We know that usually when children are kidnapped and their bodies found not fully with all their body parts in place, there are suspicions around a muti killing perhaps, but we're all speculating at this point. What we know is that Bokgabo went missing last week, Monday. And we are told 4-year-old. She was playing at a nearby park. It's a park, in fact, that I drove past today. It's about maybe a 5-minute walk from where Bokgabo resides. We understand she was playing with another child at that particular park, and it seems as though she may have been lured away from it. Of course, the suspect being Zikhali. Speaking to some community members outside the home, they were telling me that, in fact, it seems Zikhali is known in the community as somebody who seems to spend a lot of time with children, who's always carrying a backpack filled with what they say are sweets. And it seems as though at that particular moment, the alleged suspect, Zikhali, then lured Bokgabo away from the park, and then her body parts subsequently being found later in that week, last week, Sally. Those are the details we know this far. We know that Panyaza Lesufi, the Premier of Gauteng, also went to see the family today, but before that got a briefing from the police. And what also assisted in the search was the fact that the suspect Zikhali was found, or seen rather, on CCTV footage, which aided the police in his apprehension and his subsequent arrest. So at this point, details still quite sketchy. We know that, of course, the matter being back in court next week, possibly, then we will hear more in terms of what the police have with this killing. But we know, of course, that Bokgabo's body is still not complete, and it seems the suspect Zikhali is not cooperating in terms of assisting with finding the remainder of her body parts. Speaking to Bokgabo's mom, her eyes are still missing. There's an arm that's still missing. A part of her buttocks that is still missing, and the family really desperate to find those body parts in order to be able to bury her and begin that process of trying to find closure. Let's take a listen to Bokgabo's mother.
The justice system. The guy was out on bail when he did this to my daughter. What could the justice system do now? Perhaps they could bring back the death penalty, or perhaps they could throw the case out so that we can catch him out on the streets. I don't see the justice system doing any justice for Bokgabo now. He still hasn't said anything. I still can't find the rest of her remains. How many more months, how many more years is it going to take for him to tell us where the rest of my daughter's body is? So it's all up in God's hand. I don't think the justice system will do anything now.
Yeah, so the mum doesn't seem to be at all hopeful that justice is going to be done. You mentioned that the Premier, Panyaza Lesufi, was also present today. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
We need to unleash all the law enforcement agencies, and I spoke to the police to bring the K59, to bring K9, to bring police divers, just to bring all the technology that they have at their disposal, so that we can assist the family to close this chapter that is so painful. So the police have assured us that they are working extremely hard, even though the suspect is not cooperating. They are working extremely hard to ensure that they get the necessary information that can assist us.
All right, so Slee, quite a grueling day in court. The poor family are, it's just heartbreaking. What happens next with the case?
Well, it's back in court next week, Sally. We understand a profiling assessment is about to take place, and there's a possibility of a bail application. But the accused lawyer actually recused himself from court proceedings before they ended today. It seems he believes there's a conflict of interest. And just speaking to him outside of court, he was telling me that, he's a father himself, and he just could not see himself representing the accused in this matter, given the facts that are before him. So next week, we see if Zikhali has new legal representation and perhaps a bail application.
All right. Well, thank you so much for bringing us the latest on this utterly heartbreaking story. That's our reporter, Slindela Masekane, just giving us an update on dramatic developments in the trial around the murder of Bokgabo Poo. Her father, absolutely heartbroken, launched himself at the suspect in court today.